I am currently working on a master's degree in education, and it's an English education, which is a fun subject. And I was asked by one of my friends the other day when I was showing them that part of my homework was to evaluate chatbots to see how they would do in class. I didn't agree with the assignment, but I did it because obviously that's the thing that I would have to do. And I asked both ChatGPT and Copilot to summarize the Bible. And I showed them what I got. Because what I got from ChatGPT was what I would give a C to for a fifth grader, and what I got from Copilot was not even a summary. I wouldn't even call it a synopsis. I got a list of the books of the Bible, which wasn't good. But yeah, wasn't good at all. So what I did was I showed it to them, and a friend of mine actually asked me, why is so much of your education degree about Christianity? And I said, well, because pretty much everything in the English canon is based on, in some way, the Bible. And it's very difficult for people to understand that in some ways. Bible means book. When we refer to the Bible, we're referring to the Holy Bible, the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. That's the Bible. That's what we refer to. If we're referring to the Hebrew Bible, we refer to the books of the Pentateuch. If we're referring to the Bible, it's generally understood to be the Christian Bible. That's why, let's say, for example, you have a school that has an emergency plan. They call it the school's emergency Bible because it's the book, but it's not the book. The Bible is the book. And for a long time, the Bible was the only book that anybody read. And it actually is the second most important thing in the history of the development of humanity, at least in the West. Overall, the most important thing in the development of humanity is, of course, the creation of agriculture and being able to live in civilizations, which is something that happened in the East first. We know that Mesopotamia, Egypt, all of those places, even Israel, you could say that had that. And then it moved on, and then we got organized religion, unorganized religion, we had paganism, we had everything in China, everything like that. But then we had the Bible, and the Hebrew Bible was very influential in creating the New Testament. The authors of the New Testament looked to the Hebrew Bible to create the New Testament and fulfilled prophecies, all sorts of things in there with what their writing was, because remember, the New Testament was written after. And then what happened was, the people who wrote the Bible compiled a Bible. Rome had a Bible after Emperor Constantine swapped over to Christianity from the Roman paganism, and that is why almost everything written after 325 is representative of or involves something biblical if it's written in the West. So books traditionally had been expensive, and people would often own one book if they owned any, and that book would be the Bible. And rich people would own the Bible and another book, and then academics would own the Bible and many books. And after the printing press, there was a push to get the Bible into the hands of everybody and a push to increase literacy. So after Gutenberg in the 1430s, after that there was a push to get literacy. But before that, there was also references to the Bible. For example, Chaucer's most famous work, The Canterbury Tales, is all about going on a pilgrimage to Canterbury, all about the Catholic Church and going on a pilgrimage. Won that opera with his shorter sota, the drought of March hath passed to the rota and bathed in every vein with which liquor, of which virtue engendered is the furrow. Floater. So that's not necessarily a reference to the Bible, but we still say that. April showers bring May flowers. It's more poetic and in Middle English. We still say that. We still reference stuff in the Bible. I will look into some other things with the Bible and be shocked at what I find. For example, I had never read Fahrenheit 451 until it was assigned about 2 weeks ago. The book that Montaigne gets is the Bible. That's how ingrained it is in our society that the Bible is important. Have you ever read the Chronicles of Narnia? Aslan is literally Jesus. If you haven't read it, I'm sorry, that's a spoiler. But it's 110 years old at this point, so you should know that. It's been a movie. Diane Duane, in High Wizardry, She combines Catholicism and other religions and mythology and magic all into one thing. She says that Athena, Prometheus, and the Archangel Michael were all the same person. I'm actually going to reread that book and talk about it later, because that's just something that's epic. The Bible seeps into that. A lot of the stuff in there is great. And then like stuff like the Sermon on the Mount, or Jesus saying, give all your possessions, give to the poor. Those are great things, even if they are a religious text. Those are great things to be talking to with people. And I think it's wonderful, but unfortunately, like in some cases, if it's telling somebody of a faith how to behave, you can't use it in that way. But the Sermon on the Mount is a great piece of literary fiction if you don't believe it as if you don't believe it is inspired divine text. It's a great piece of literary fiction that people can learn from. And honestly, using the Bible could help students meet social emotional learning goals. If you use the New Testament, if you use the Old Testament, you can use the Old Testament in some ways and say, okay, so what do we think of conquering lands? What does this remind you of? You can tie that into Manifest Destiny. You actually should tie that into Manifest Destiny. You should be teaching Exodus alongside Manifest Destiny, but we often don't because we're too ashamed of it. We're too ashamed to say, oh yeah, this book that told the Israelites to go get that land, we're using to go get this land that's certainly not Israel. It never was Israel. It isn't in the Middle East. And yeah. But the Bible is the book. It is the most important book in the history of Western civilization. Now, I don't know a lot about Eastern civilization's development and culture because I'm ignorant to those things because I didn't learn as much about those as I would have hoped or would have liked. But that is the thing. You often learn about the civilization you're a part of, from your family, from your school, from everything. And that allows us to do a number of different things that help us. But the especially one that you need to have an understanding of the Bible to understand most things in the English canon. You need to have an understanding of Christianity and Catholicism to have an understanding of most things in the English canon. You need to have an understanding of a lot of old social cultures to have an understanding of some things in the English canon, but the Bible is the basis of it all. Look, the next time you pick up a book that's canonical, the next time you pick up a Shakespeare play, the next time you pick up Jane Austen, the next time you pick up Chaucer, the next time you pick up any canonical work in English, something that you think of an English teacher who would be assigning that was originally written in English, so I don't mean the Odyssey. See how you can connect it to the Bible. I'm going to guarantee you that within 50 pages, there's a connection to the Bible.